Saving Grace is based on a true story about a young woman named Grace who was rescued from domestic abuse. Grace had met her husband on an online site and had a long time relationship while chatting, and then met and married John Anderson. John Anderson began becoming abusive into the marriage, early into the marriage. It took Grace not too long to decide to leave the marriage several times. In fact, it took her several times to leave and go and come back and once and finally leave after physical violence. She was severely abused to the point where she needed medical treatment. Discretion is advised as I conclude in sharing the details of this story. As you will hear in this story, there are many characters that will be in this story that will help rescue Grace. The story of saving Grace begins now. Grace gets a knock at the door. It's from the police. We heard there's a disturbance call. Yes, there is. Grace was severely wounded. John had fled the scene, and John obviously had created a situation for himself by fleeing the police. It wasn't that much longer that John was tackled by the police in the surrounding driveway area of the apartment building. By being arrested, he was held by the police while Grace was getting tended to her injuries. Her nose was fractured and she had several other injuries. She was punched in the sternum. She had a fractured nose and she was getting treated by the EMTs. By the time she made it to the hospital, the nurse and doctor were tending to her injuries by packing her nose. By the time the judge had heard her case, it didn't take too long to release funds to get her relocated. She was often surprised how quick the process was to get her relocated to a shelter. She got to the shelter and they also planned on relocating her again for her safety. She was also already in the process of moving anyway. Her belongings were already in storage. It didn't take too long to decide to move as far away as possible. So they had an outreach program that was a couple states away that she could travel to where she would be safe and she would be as far away from the location where she was at. So it took some collaboration between the agencies to get her to relocate. With the help of other people, Grace was on her way to the new location, 3 states away in Springfield, Missouri. Grace said to herself, I've never traveled this far. Oh, my goodness. By the time she made it to Springfield, Missouri, they had relocated her to another location in a small town outside of Springfield, Missouri. It was close to Branson, Missouri. This is so far from everything I know. I don't know anybody. Just as she pulled up for gas, she looked beat up, broken, and out of gas and out of energy. The traveling was quite a distance from where she was. Wow, she said to herself. So she got out of the car and was ready to pump gas when she realized she didn't have a bank card on her. So she had to pay cash. Just then, a young man named Michael approached her and says, "Wow, you look like you're new in town. You don't look familiar at all." She was taken back by his straightforwardness. He outstretched his hand and said, "My name is Michael. I own Smithon Automotive." "Oh, really? What is that?" "It's a car and rental agency. I'd like to help you. Is there any help I can offer you?" "Oh, no," said Grace. "I'm good." Just as she walked away, he stuck the gas tank into her car and pumped gas in her car and paid for her gas. She turned quickly and noticed that he was pumping gas in his car, and he smiled. And she said, "What are you doing?" And she chuckled. He says, "I'm pumping gas in your car. You needed gas, so I'm here to help." She looked at him strange, as she couldn't have expected something so generous and so kind. After all she's been through, she didn't know how to handle it at first. She looked at him. She said, "That was so kind of you. Well, consider it your welcoming to Branson gift. Here's my card. Can we do lunch?" "I would like that," said Grace. "Will that consider that a date?" "I would like that a lot." So Grace and Michael departed from each other as Grace headed back to the shelter. Grace was introduced to Shelley, Marissa Estes, and a couple other counselors there who were going to help her get on her feet. They explained the program and the rules and some of the things that she needed to know. She was going to be moving into a fully furnished house, well, cottage, more or less, that was helped by Joe Metzger. So she was going to be moving into this fully furnished place the next day. It came to such a surprise to Grace. They were saving her life. At the same time, this fully furnished cottage was going to be equipped with everything she needed. She was also going to get resources and other counseling at the same time. So Marissa Estes became such a familiar person because she got to talking to her the most. Marissa said, "Don't you worry. I will be there to walk you through the whole thing tomorrow. Why don't you get some rest?" So that's the beginning of the start of a journey that would last into the next weeks and months ahead. As Marissa woke Grace up the next morning, Grace was so excited about the day that was ahead of her. She got enough rest after all the sleep deprivation and all the things that were going on to get her from Ohio to Missouri. It was quite a journey there, but she got the rest she needed. Marissa said, "Listen, we have no time to spare. We got to get over to the cottage. Like I said, you have a lot of work ahead. You have some cleaning of your own to do, like your own cottage." Wow. And plus, you get to meet Joe Metzger. He's a donor of the agency. So he's a special person who really works with the agency. He understands the situations young women like us who work with people in our situation. And he does the work that needs to be done around the building. And you will like him a lot. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, she got a report from the courts that John was going to be held in court for a number of months. As the story would conclude, it was now charges were pending felony domestic violence. She filed for divorce quickly and made sure that the divorce proceedings would continue. As the months of abuse had culminated, it was obvious to Grace that divorce was inevitable. She told this to Marissa. Marissa, I have waited to file these papers in the courthouse for a long time. It was just a matter of time. I'm glad that you have decided to do that. Let's get on with the business over at the cottage first, and then we'll conclude with the paperwork. So, as they made their way to the cottage, they met Joe Metzger. It was a very special meeting. Joe Metzger was wonderful, and Grace really enjoyed talking to him. And he said to her, I have a special housewarming gift for you. And what is that? Said Grace. Well, it's a telescope. Really? Said Marissa. Yes, it's for all the stargazing that you get to do when you're out on the front porch. It's something I really enjoy personally, and I think you'll enjoy it too. And she was just so overwhelmed with excitement that Grace couldn't believe that someone could be so kind. That is very kind of you, said Marissa. Yes, said Grace. Thank you so much. Listen, said Joe Metzger, I have to get back to work and I have a lot of things I need to do, but here's the keys to the cottage. You're free to clean and decorate and do as you please. And just follow up with me as needed, and I'll be there if you need anything in the meantime. It was nice meeting you, Joe, said Grace as she shook Joe's hand. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. As Marissa and Joe said goodbye to, and Grace was so thrilled to walk into the cottage, she saw how beautifully decorated it was. It looks like somebody did some interior decorating because I don't think I could decorate this well, said Grace to Marissa. Yeah, it is well decorated. It is beautiful here. The director is been here before too, and she said this looks like a charmed life. Yeah, it looks like it's right out of what do you call Better Homes and Garden? Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like, said Grace. Why don't we go down to the pizza pub? There's some good food there. Oh, that would be great. I know some people down there that always gets food down there, and they say it's a great place to go. They head down to the pizza pub, and Johnny, who is a nice man, his name is Johnny Knox. He's the owner's son, and he operates the pizza shop. Says, hello, welcome to the pizza pub. Oh, yeah, we are so happy to be here. Well, welcome here. Well, what can I do to help you? Well, we would like some pizza. 2 slices of cheese and pepperoni for each of us, and Diet Cokes. That's fine by me. I'll get that order up for you here shortly. As they waited for the pizza to get piping hot, it would come served by Vanessa, the waitress. Oh, by the way, that's my fiance. Oh, is it? Yes, Vanessa's my fiance, said Johnny. Oh, it's nice to meet you, Vanessa. Oh, it's nice to meet you too. As they finished off their pizza so quickly, they were so excited they couldn't help it but wonder what was the rush. Why were they rushing through this adventure? They had enough time to enjoy it, but they were so hungry. I guess it was all that work and all the busyness of moving and getting things done. Just then, they heard a ring at the door in the front entrance. And guess who walks in the door? Michael. Michael Smithon, the guy that pumped the gas in the car. Who is that? That's Michael, said Grace. How do you know? Said Marissa. I actually met him last night. He pumped gas in my car. I was, it's a long story, but hold on a second. I'll have to explain it to you another time, but let me get his attention. Hello, as Grace waved to get Michael's attention, but Michael didn't notice. Michael was talking to Johnny Knox. Okay, well, I don't think he noticed, Marissa said. Listen, I have to get going. Do you want to go? Yeah, I need to get some things done down at the courthouse. Okay, well, let's go up front. Maybe we can talk to him up there. So Grace and Marissa go up front and notice that Michael's up front too. Hi, Michael, said Grace. Hi, Grace. It's nice to see you, said Michael. Oh, Johnny said, you know each other? Well, kinda, said Michael. Grace nodded, yes, we kinda do. This is Marissa, said Grace to Michael. It's nice to meet you, Marissa, said Michael. Likewise, said Marissa. Well, listen, I don't have much time to spare. I have a lot of hungry employees. I have to get back to my office. But I must admit, it's nice running into you. We're still up for that date sometime soon? Yeah, very soon, in the near future. I'm really busy just moving into my house and everything. Okay, well, whenever that time comes, you have my card, right? Said Michael, said to Grace. Yes, definitely. As Michael left it with all these pizza boxes to go to his office, Grace was so excited. Marissa said, you're not even divorced yet. I will be soon because I'm going to get the quickie divorce. Okay, do it the right way, Grace. Don't rush into anything. You've made that choice, I'm sure, before. Yes, I know. As Grace realized that she was going to have to head down to the courthouse to file the divorce papers, she did have enough time to finish filing the divorce paperwork in the courthouse. And she got her paperwork in, and it was plenty of paperwork that needed to be signed and dotted and notarized. But by the time she got the paperwork in, the courts had acknowledged that she was, in fact, a victim of domestic violence. And there are laws that help with victims of domestic violence get a quicker divorce. So by the time the paperwork went through, she finally got through and found that her paperwork came through the mail, and she noticed and acknowledged that the divorce was in the progress. And she notified Marissa a couple weeks later. Marissa, remember when I filed the divorce paperwork? Yes. Well, it's in progress. That's good to hear. So how much longer do you have? Not that much longer. You think you're going to proceed with that date? Yes, I think I will. Not just yet. I still have some counseling and some things I need to work out. That's a good route to take. Take it slow. I agree. But I still like this guy a lot, and I still hope that I have a chance to make this relationship work. Well, you can talk about relationships once you get to the point that you feel you're comfortable. In the meantime, work on your portraits and work on your art therapy and continue the progress you're making. You're doing phenomenal. Everybody's excited about what you're doing. You've made so much progress in just a short amount of time. Moving into the cottage is just the beginning of your new journey in domestic violence recovery. Life after domestic violence is a lot better. As soon as you get the recovery you needed, you will feel a tremendous weight off your shoulders.